Hello, students, and welcome back. Today, we're going to reach the final, very interesting part of our chapter on the story of village Palampur. Now, so far, we've talked a lot about farming, which is, of course, the main activity in the village. But have you wondered about the people who don't farm? Well, in this lesson, we will explore that fascinating world of non-farm activities and see just how important they are for life in the village. All right, let's start by thinking about this question. We know that about 75%, that's 3 out of every 4 people in Palampur, are involved in farming. So what about that last person? What kind of work do they do to earn their living? Let's find out together. So let's begin with our first section, the problem, which is why farming isn't enough. As we have studied quite well by now, farming is the main production activity in Palampur. But you see, it comes with a very basic, fundamental problem. A limitation that really affects the livelihood of everyone in the village. And here is that key constraint we've discussed before. The land area for cultivation, it's fixed. We simply cannot create more land, can we? And this simple fact means that farming alone just cannot provide a good living for every single person in the village, especially as the population continues to grow. This scene, it's a very familiar one from our study of Palampur, isn't it? But if you look closely, it also shows us the very challenge we are talking about. You see, a limited resource, the land, trying to support a growing number of people.
So what is the alternative when land is limited? If farming can't support everyone, what else can people possibly do to earn a living? Well, this brings us to our second section and the main topic for today, the solution, which is non-farm activities.
Okay, so first, let's get the definition very, very clear in our minds. Non-farm activities are basically any work, any production activity that does not involve cultivating land. So you can think of it as, well, making other things or providing different services that people in the village need. This gives them another way to earn an income. And as this slide shows us, that remaining 25% of the people in Palampur, the ones who aren't farming, are engaged in all sorts of different activities. They've started businesses like dairy, manufacturing, shopkeeping, and even transport. So let's take a closer look at a few of these examples from the village. First up, we have dairy farming. Now, this is a very, very common non-farm activity you'll find in many villages. Families keep buffaloes and they feed them with locally grown crops like jowar and bajra. The milk is then sold, often in a nearby bigger village like Raiganj, and from there, collection centers transport it to larger towns. Now, what's really important to understand here is that dairy provides a steady, regular income, unlike farming, which gives income only after the harvest season. Okay, from dairy, let's now move to our second example, small-scale manufacturing. Let's look at the story of a man named Mishralal. He has set up his own unit to produce jaggery. Now, he uses a mechanical machine that runs on electricity to crush the sugarcane. And where does he get the sugarcane? He buys it from other farmers. His own family members help him with the work, so he doesn't need to hire extra labor. And once the jaggery is made, he sells it to traders in the nearby town of Shalpur. It's a small business, you see, using simple methods and family labor. Next up, we have the shopkeepers. These are the traders of Palampur. What they do is they go to the big wholesale markets in the cities, buy various goods, things like rice, sugar, soap, pens, notebooks, and then they sell them in their small general stores right inside the village. This is an essential service, isn't it? They make all our daily necessities available to everyone right. And our final example is the transport sector. You see, because Palampur has good roads connecting it to other places, this sector is growing quite fast. People use all kinds of vehicles, everything from the traditional bullock carts to modern jeeps and tractors, and they use them to transport both people and goods. For example, they might take Mishriwal's jaggery to the market or bring supplies back to the village. This creates new job opportunities for many people, like a man named Kishora, who we will talk about in just a bit. Now, to start any of these activities, whether it's a dairy, a jaggery unit, or a transport service, a person needs something very important. It's called capital. So this brings us to our third section, the capital you need. And here, we'll just take a moment to understand 2 different types of capital that are absolutely essential for any business. Let's pause and think about this for a moment. Using the stories we just discussed, think about Mishralal with his jaggery machine, or Kishora with his cart. What are the long-lasting items, the tools or machines that they use in their businesses not just once, but over and over again for many years? Well, the answer to our question is fixed capital. Let's understand this term carefully. Fixed capital includes items that are not used up in one cycle of production. Mishra Lal's sugarcane crusher is a perfect example. He bought it once, but he will use it for many, many years to make jaggery. In the same way, Kishora's wooden cart is his fixed capital.
Okay, so if the machine is fixed capital, then what about the sugarcane that Mishriel needs to buy every single day? Or the money he needs to pay for the electricity to run his machine? What do we call those things?
This is what we call working capital. It's made up of the raw materials and the money in hand that are needed for the day-to-day running of the business. So for Mishri Lal, the sugarcane and the money to buy it are his working capital. You see, unlike his machine, these things get used up completely in the process of making jaggery. Now, this brings us to a very important question. If these non-farm activities are so helpful for the village economy, why are they still on a relatively small scale? Why isn't everyone starting their own business? In our fourth section, Challenges and Growth, we'll explore some of the reasons why. And this number, 24, really helps us see the bigger picture. Across all of rural India, only about 24 out of every 100 workers are involved in the non-farm sector. This tells us that while these activities are important, there is still a lot of scope for growth. So what are the main hurdles? Well, expansion really depends on solving three big challenges. First, a lack of capital. It's often very difficult for poor villagers to get loans to buy the fixed and working capital they need. Second, a lack of skills. It's a common mistake to think these jobs require no effort or skill. Many actually need specific training. And third, a lack of markets. You need a place to sell what you produce. So even with these challenges, it is very, very important to encourage these activities in villages. And this brings us to our final section, the importance of non-farm activities. Let's quickly summarize why these jobs are so essential for the development of any village. In short, a strong non-farm sector is absolutely vital. You see, it reduces the pressure on the limited farmland. It creates new jobs right there in the village, which means people don't have to leave their homes and families to find work in cities. And most importantly, it helps people earn more money, which directly improves their standard of living. All of this leads to a much more prosperous and balanced village economy. And that brings us to the end of our chapter on the story of village Palampur. Now, I want to leave you with this final question to think about. We read about a character named Kareem who opened a computer center in the village. In today's world, with all the new technology, what other new non-farm activities could be started in the village to help it grow and develop? Take some time to think about this. Thank you.